The Air Force mess hall at Nellis Air Force Base hummed with the usual dinner rush. Trays clattered against tables, fighter pilots swapped stories about the day's training runs, and the smell of hot food filled the air. Captain Derek Lawson sat with his squadron, fresh off a successful red flag exercise. They were F-22 Raptor pilots, the best of the best, flying the most advanced fighter jet on the planet. The confidence in their posture wasn't arrogance. It was simply the truth of what they'd earned. Before we continue, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your country name in the comments right now. Let's see how many countries are represented in our universe family today. Now back to the story. That's when the old man walked through the entrance. He moved with deliberate slowness, wearing a worn leather jacket with faded patches that probably belonged in a museum. His hair was completely white, his face carved with deep lines that mapped out decades of stories. He carried his tray with steady hands and chose a table in the corner. Sitting alone as if he'd done this 1,000 times before, Lawson noticed him immediately and nudged his wingman, Lieutenant Torres. "Check out the fossil over there? Someone's grandfather must be visiting." The table chuckled, not cruelly. Just the casual humor of young men who'd never known real war. Only simulated combat with safety protocols and guaranteed landings. "Probably a retired maintenance chief," another pilot offered. "Maybe here for a reunion or something." But something about the old man bothered Lawson. Maybe it was the way he sat, straight back despite his years, or the calm in his eyes that suggested he'd seen things these young pilots couldn't imagine. Lawson stood up, tray still half full, and walked over. "Excuse me, sir," Lawson said, his tone friendly but carrying that edge of youthful cockiness. "Mind if I join you? We don't see many visitors in here, and I'm curious. Did you serve? What was your rank back in the day? Staff sergeant? Master sergeant, maybe?" The old man looked up slowly, his pale blue eyes sharp and clear despite his age. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a measured sip of his coffee, set it down with precision, and met Lawson's gaze directly. The mess hall was starting to quiet, nearby conversations fading as people sensed something unfolding. "Chief Master Sergeant," the old man said, his voice gravelly but steady. "William Iron Donnelly, retired." Lawson's smile wavered. Chief Master Sergeant was the highest enlisted rank in the Air Force, a position that commanded absolute respect. But the old man wasn't finished. Loadmaster on B-52 Stratofortresses. Vietnam, 1967 to 1973. Arc light missions over the north. He paused, letting that sink in. 347 combat missions. Got shot down twice. Spent 8 months as a guest of the North Vietnamese in a place we called the Hanoi Hilton. The mess hall had gone completely silent. Every pilot, every airman, everyone within earshot had stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped breathing. They knew what arclight was. High-altitude carpet bombing missions. Flying into the most heavily defended airspace on Earth with no stealth technology, no precision weapons. Just courage and a bomber loaded with iron bombs. If you're feeling this story, hit that like button right now. Let me see those likes coming in. The Hanoi Hilton? Lawson repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "You were a POW." "For 243 days, Donnelly confirmed. "Shared a cell with a Navy pilot named Stockdale for a while. Good man, we kept each other sane, or tried to anyway. The guards didn't appreciate our sense of humor." His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. A darkness that came from places most people would never see. Lawson felt his face burning with shame. "Sir, I apologize. I didn't mean any disrespect. Donnelly raised a weathered hand, stopping him gently. "You didn't know, Captain. That's all right. But let me tell you something." He gestured toward the patches on Lawson's flight suit, the wings that marked him as a fighter pilot. "You fly the most advanced aircraft ever built. You have technology I couldn't have dreamed of. GPS, precision weapons, stealth capabilities. That's good. That's how it should be." He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping but carrying more weight than any shout. "But when I flew, we didn't have any of that. We had charts, compasses, and each other. We flew into walls of anti-aircraft fire that lit up the sky like the 4th of July. We watched friends get blown out of formation and had to keep flying because the mission demanded it. We didn't have ejection seats on those old Stratofortresses, not ones that worked reliably anyway. If you went down hard. Donnelly paused, his eyes distant, seeing things that happened 50 years ago as if they were yesterday. So, when you put on that uniform every morning, when you strap into that fancy jet of yours, remember something. You're not just carrying your own wings, you're carrying ours too. Every pilot who flew before you, everyone who didn't make it home, everyone who spent years in a cage wondering if they'd ever see their families again. You carry all of us with you. Lawson stood abruptly and came to attention, his right hand snapping to his forehead in the sharpest salute of his entire career. Around the mess hall, other officers and airmen rose and did the same. The sound of chairs scraping against the floor echoed through the silence. Donnelly slowly returned the salute, his hand steady despite his years. At ease, Captain. Finish your dinner. And fly well. You've earned those wings fair and square. Just remember where they came from. As Donnelly stood to leave, his tray empty, the entire mess hall remained standing. Not a single person sat down until he'd walked through the exit and disappeared into the Nevada evening. When Lawson finally returned to his table, his food was cold, but he didn't care. His squadron was silent, each man lost in his own thoughts. 347 missions, Torres finally whispered. And he got shot down twice and kept flying. Lawson nodded, unable to speak. For the first time since earning his wings, he felt the true weight of them. Not the weight of the metal pinned to his chest, but the weight of everyone who'd worn them before him. The ones who'd flown without GPS, without stealth, without guarantees. The ones who'd paid prices he couldn't comprehend. That night, Lawson went back to his quarters and did something he hadn't done since basic training. He polished his boots until they gleamed, pressed his uniform with meticulous care, and sat in the darkness thinking about a man named Iron Donnelly, who'd survived hell and walked through a mess hall like it was just another day. Pride, Lawson realized, wasn't about what you could do. It was about honoring those who'd done it first, who'd paved the runway you took off from, who'd paid in blood and years for the freedom you enjoyed. The fancy jets didn't make them better. They just made them luckier. This story reminds us that respect is earned through sacrifice, and that the greatest heroes often walk among us unnoticed until we take the time to ask their story. If this touched your heart, if it made you think differently about the veterans in your own life, then do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today, especially a veteran who deserves recognition. Comment below and tell me about a veteran who changed your perspective. Let's honor their legacy together. Thank you for being part of this universe. I'll see you in the next story.